A recurring dark object, recorded only during solar eclipses, forced astronomers to publish a planet that no full daylight observation could ever confirm. And every new eclipse made the disagreement worse. During the eclipse of 1859, Urbain Le Verrier reviewed reports from multiple observatories describing a small black point skimming the sun's edge. It moved. It returned in later observations. It behaved like a planet inside Mercury's orbit. Inside observatory rooms, the conclusion hardened fast. A real body had to exist, because independent witnesses were seeing the same thing. On old Victorian star maps, that dark point began to appear near the sun's glare, carefully plotted like any other world. That is the click promise forming in real time. A planet that only exists when the sun disappears. But the first problem was already visible in the instrument logs. The moment the sun was partially exposed, the object vanished. Every time. During totality, sketches showed a clean circular dot. Outside eclipse conditions, nothing. No orbiting body could behave like that under Newtonian mechanics. But the pressure of agreement was stronger than the contradiction. The visual anchor is now fixed in place. Victorian star maps and eclipse sketches showing a shifting dark point near the sun's edge. It looked real because it was repeatedly witnessed under identical constraints. And yet, those constraints were the story. Within months, the visual anchor appeared again in new reports from Europe and South America. Each eclipse added another drawing, another confirmation, another precise location of the same shadow-like object near the sun. But something subtle changed in how it was described. The position shifted slightly between observers, not enough to break belief, just enough to justify orbital adjustment. A new planet was placed inside Mercury's orbit and given structure, mass, and motion. Vulcan was no longer a hypothesis. It was becoming a mapped world. But that was not the part that made the situation dangerous. Because the observation was not improving, it was being repeated under identical blindness. Every sighting of the visual anchor depended on the same condition. The sun had to be blocked. That meant the measurement environment itself was filtering reality. No one was observing Vulcan directly. They were observing what remained when the brightest object in the sky was removed. Still, the planet survived scrutiny because prediction models needed it. Mercury's orbit refused to behave. The math demanded a correction. Vulcan filled the gap. Then the visual anchor returned again, now embedded in institutional certainty. Star charts across major observatories carried it. The dark point near the sun was no longer debated as appearance. It was debated as orbit. If it existed, where was it at other times? That question forced a stabilizing story. Vulcan was either too close to the sun to be seen, or too small outside eclipse glare. The absence of evidence became part of the structure of belief. And still, every return to the visual anchor carried the same limitation. No telescope operating outside eclipse conditions ever captured it. None. Even during partial transits, when astronomers tried to catch it crossing the solar disk, the expected silhouette never arrived. But this contradiction did not break the model. It refined it. Vulcan was pushed closer to the sun, into a harsher observational zone. The more it disappeared, the more precise its assumed orbit became. Then the system began to fail in a different way. Predictions improved for Mercury only slightly, not enough to close the gap. And every refinement of Vulcan's orbit created new inconsistencies elsewhere. The visual anchor started to behave like a moving target inside the data itself. Each eclipse report disagreed with the last by small margins that should not have existed if a single, stable planet was responsible. The measurement was not converging. It was scattering. By the early 20th century, the pressure reached its breaking point. The visual anchor still appeared in eclipse sketches, but now it carried suspicion. A growing number of astronomers noticed something critical. The sightings only happened in extreme observational conditions: glare suppression, atmospheric distortion, human interpretation filling gaps between incomplete images. The planet was not being tracked. It was being reconstructed each time vision failed. Then Einstein entered the problem in 1915. General Relativity did not adjust Vulcan. It removed its necessity. Mercury's orbit no longer needed an additional planet to explain its precession. Space itself near the Sun was curved. The missing motion came from geometry, not hidden mass. The visual anchor returned one final time in historical comparison. Victorian sketches placed beside modern calculations. The dark point that had seemed so consistent was reinterpreted in full. It was never a planet with a stable orbit. It was a measurement artifact produced when the brightest object in the sky was removed and incomplete perception filled the gap with structure. The visual anchor collapses in meaning, not existence. The same eclipse drawings remain. The same dark dot remains. But now, it represents something different. Not a world inside Mercury's orbit. A limit inside human observation. A system where blindness creates certainty. And once that is understood, the entire archive changes weight. Every confident report becomes evidence of constraint, not discovery. Every map becomes a record of missing light. The universe did not lose a planet. It revealed the shape of what we cannot see.